The countdown has started. In less than 2 weeks, the Formula One World Championship will begin in Australia. Ferrari has yet to expose all of its cards, and no one knows what to expect in its battle against McLaren. But things are looking good for the team in red, as behind the scenes, rumours are flying around that we haven't even seen half of what they're capable of yet. So, are they the one to keep an eye on next week? And can Hamilton start his Ferrari career off with a legendary win? In the data, Leclerc looked exceedingly cautious in his predictions, whereas Hamilton did not complete his final race simulation. The SF25 failed to impress onlookers and insiders at the end of preseason in Bahrain. Once on track, the SF25 revealed a base with potential but some difficulties to resolve. In Maranello, they are discussing parameters that must be calibrated. This means that assessments on pure performance will be deferred until round 1. As a result, the SF25's firepower is called into question. I would prefer to wait before going out on a limb to say whether the car is fast. The words of Charles Leclerc, who is typically extremely articulate in expressing his feelings about the prancing horse car. We will only see in Melbourne where we are at, when we will have everything in the best conditions to try to extract the best from the car. During the tests, we struggled a bit more in the balance. Red Bull is unsatisfied with its own tests and sees Ferrari as the closest competitor to McLaren. This indicates, according to Red Bull's technical director, that the SF25 has played hide-and-seek a little more than the others. McLaren made a chance with the MCL39 to win this year's championship. However, following testing, Team Papaya stated unequivocally that, "We don't trust Ferrari at all." So, could they have been sandbagging after all? The technicians are focusing their efforts on assessing the data generated during testing. Except for brief targeted flashes, Ferrari's Bahrain program never sought substantial performance. Fred Vasseur's team prepared a test plan centered on understanding the SF25's new mechanical basis, more especially how it handles changes in setup and tyre management. The car performed as expected, with a more powerful front end, although it still needs to be tuned due to an inverted pull rod suspension that demands more technical understanding. This element, however, had an impact on the braking behavior, which changed more or less indirectly. However, Ferrari left Bahrain with some unanswered questions, and further testing on the track will be required to draw more solid conclusions. There are still some concerns with the Scuderia outfit. However, the team's aerodynamic statistics from Bahrain reveal that there is no lack of correlation. According to the information, nothing odd was discovered with the tunnel work done during the winter. A soothing analysis that confirms Team Principal Vasseur's words in Bahrain. The numbers we found are the same as we expected. However, Hamilton and Leclerc will engage in 3 days of simulator testing to arrive in Australia with fewer unknowns. The rear end was constrained by a mechanical system that has yet to be centered. Hamilton and Leclerc have shown 2 sides of the same coin. The SF25 is not slow, but it still needs to be put back on track, according to Sakir's initial assessment. The rear that does not follow the front is a concern that Maranello is now addressing only from a mechanical standpoint. The Italian single-seater was born after extensive work redistributing the axles and reducing the transmission. A challenging task aiming at broadening the setup and achieving a more forward-moving weight distribution. It is obvious that such a significant alteration would inevitably disrupt the prancing horse technicians' balances and references from the previous year. Bahrain also provided a track that was far from ideal, particularly not reflective of what we will see in the official weekend, when F1 will stop there for the 3rd round of the season. It is highly unlikely that similar weather will be found when the F1 World Championship stops here again. As revealed, Leclerc and Hamilton are currently in Maranello for a 3-day simulator session based on a program designed to assess the situation in relation to Australia. The 2 Ferrari drivers will have a very busy week, as they will be working both at the factory and off-track. Earlier this week, Leclerc, Hamilton, and Vasseur attended the PUMA event. They were also present during the team's presentation in the square this week, when they will go to the track with 2 dated Formula One cars, the SF90 and the SF21. The SF25 will be seen in 2 weeks on a track that is very different from Bahrain, with less constraining on the rear thanks to improvements to the 2022 configuration, which can suit the needs of the red car in this first taste of the season. Ferrari's focus will be on putting the rear on the window without weakening the front, on a track that will also provide technical suggestions for tyres and front graining. The aerodynamic setup will not change, but the new generation rear wing with the more pronounced spoon is firmly at the core of a macro configuration that will frequently be used on medium-load circuits. The amounts of vertical thrust at the rear will be primarily determined by the usage of more or less wide beam wings, as well as the grip provided by Albert Park's semi-permanent track. McLaren is the clear favourite at the start of the season. Meanwhile, in Maranello, the first 3 races will serve as a benchmark to clearly drive the development of the platform. "We have opened a new door for development," Vasseur explained during the tests. "Will it be sufficient? Some think so, other among the tracks still have their doubts, like Red Bull's camp." According to his observations during pre-season testing, Red Bull consultant Helmut Marko predicts that McLaren will lead the 2025 Formula One season. The former Austrian racing driver believes that Max Verstappen, who is aiming for his 5th consecutive title this year, will have hard opposition from McLaren's Lando Norris. It's reasonable to say that the Papaya team is the favourite for the Australian Grand Prix. Following a successful 2024 season in which they won the Constructors' Championship for the first time since 1998, their performance in Bahrain appeared promising. The long run from Norris on Thursday was rapid and consistent, but with the usual testing caveats, as well as the fact that even Zak Brown admitted their design direction this year is a brave risk. There's no way of knowing how far ahead they'll be, or if they'll even be at the front at all. Red Bull's technical director, Pierre Wascher, has previously shared his thoughts on the MCL39. "Some things are interesting, some are less so. The McLaren is very interesting. After all, they have a lot of flexible wings at the front and at the rear," he said. "Their front suspension is very interesting, but also very risky from our point of view. It will be very interesting to see if they can make it work." Marko, who has been developing Verstappen since a young age, gave his thoughts after leaving testing early. "You have to say that Lando Norris is the favourite. Obviously, he looked a lot better than Piastri in Bahrain. The main thing is to hope that they take points off each other, and that we take advantage of that," he said. "If you look at the data from the test days, you have to conclude that McLaren start the season with a lead. That is on both the shorter and long runs." According to what's being spoken around the Milton Keynes garage, the team has, for the most part, resolved the balancing difficulties that plagued them last season. But Verstappen and Wascher are still expecting more. "It was not as smooth a test as we expected, and the team expected, but it is better to find some problems here than later down the line, and it is why we are here, to understand the car," Wascher said. "The weather was not with us and not very representative of this track. But we tried to explore the potential of the car and try to understand how it responds to different setups, and I think we more or less achieved that. I think it's very difficult to see a starting order for Melbourne across the grid right now. You see that 4 teams look quite quick, including us, but we didn't look too much at other teams. We tried to focus on our program. I am not as happy as I could be because the car did not respond how we wanted at times, but it is going in the right direction. Just maybe the magnitude of the direction was not as big as we expected, and it's something we need to work on for the first race and future development." Marko has a similar opinion. "We have made a good step. McLaren are only the favourite at the moment," he concluded. "So, what do you think? Ferrari or McLaren, who will come out on top in Australia? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.